you've got is to be able to sell that land without raising taxes. Because like I said, I mean, I don't think that I could pass a tax here. I really don't. I think it would be really, really, really hard to do. And I don't think it's fair to people that are working their tails off to put food on the table to raise taxes as our first option. It's the last resort. You know, so the other option is become more efficient. Well, I can trim down as absolute as much as we can, but even consolidating schools or closing schools just to save money is not a real popular thing, obviously. And I have to have somewhere to go. You know, so if you close a school, then you have to send those kids somewhere else. And if you don't have any room at that school, then you can't close that school. And so there's got to be other ways, you know, so I really hope it doesn't take 10 years. You know, and we may have to settle for a little bit less on the property than we initially want so that we can fix the situation. Now, what I will tell you is one of my biggest goals this spring is to create a sense of urgency amongst the residents so that people can very clearly see. People say, well, we want you to be transparent. Well, I'm going to be real transparent with you here in a minute. Is, okay, we finished the year $300,000 in the hole. Okay, that's the financial condition of our school system right now. You know, we've improved that, so I think we're in a great shape, and we've made great strides just in the last 8 months to make sure that that doesn't happen again. We've got more money in our general fund than we've had in a long time. So we're in good shape there, and we're moving in the right direction, but that's not going to be enough to build 6 new elementary schools and 3 new high schools and create the environment that I think your children need to have. So we're going to have to hope that something can come from that, and that we can make those kind of changes, at least enough that we can pay for the debt service. Even if we can't just plain pay for a new school, we can't, at this point, we can't even take the loan. You know, no one's going to give me a $20 or $30 million loan to build a new school in the financial shape that we're currently in. But I can tell them that, you know, well, we're 37 days, you know, in our state, we can operate for 37 days fund balance. I mean, they're not going to give me a $30 million loan. So I've got to create the funds, or I've got to, you know, and there is a good possibility that this land, or the Section 16 land as a whole, could bring some financial stability to your future without raising your taxes. So, and without just going around and just closing schools. Because here's the issue: if we can't financially support ourselves, then you run the risk of the state coming in and the state putting you back on the financial future of what you need to be, which means they're going to come in and make you real efficient, and you're not going to be happy with the results of that. So we need to make every effort that we can and show every effort that we're trying to fix the situation the best that we possibly can. By still providing a good quality education, we're still going to have to invest money in technology so that your kids are getting the education that they deserve. We're going to have to invest in professional development so that your teachers are getting the training that they need. So on one hand, you're trying to cut programs and trying to cut things so that you can save some money and fix schools. And then on this hand, you're trying to make sure that you're still moving forward and that you're fixing what you can. So it's a tricky balance. It's a very tricky balance. Yes, ma'am?
So exactly how much was given for the land at what interest rate?
The interest rate that we got is slightly below 3%.
What was the exact dollar?
The exact dollar?
That was gave for the land?
1.2 million. Yes, sir.
What's so hard to swallow with federal funds? If our budget is so clear on our futures, our principal on our lives, so we're having.
Sure.
900,000 that we paid out.
Well, it was paid for, but it's going to be replaced as soon as the loan comes through. The closing on the loan will be in the next few weeks.
That's what I think is hard for everyone to swallow. Because when you're speculative and you're buying, purchasing, and I understand completely what you're saying about we got to clean this up because sometimes you have to spend money to make money back.
Absolutely.
I disagree with you when you say, look at it like we've got 447 acres at $1.2 million, when we had 400 less acres for nothing. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So that's what's so hard to swallow. And
We couldn't. Well, because nobody was interested in buying it because of the issues.
I'm sorry, the guy that people like, sounds to me like you bought that from, because you had to have it rush.
No, we did five months of research before we made the purchase. 5 months of research. So it definitely was not a knee-jerk reaction by any way, stretch, or
That's what
form.
I'm saying.
And like I said, it was definitely not a Craig Ross decision. It was a decision where we went out and sought out several different professionals, real estate investment firms, and things like that, and had them look at our situation. Is this a good investment? Is this a wise purchase? Do we have to have this? And of course, all of them gave us the same answer. You can't do anything with the land you have unless you do this. You better get this as quick as you can, basically, is what we were told. So there was very little, yeah. Okay.
What I'm saying is the timing.
Oh, the timing stunk. The timing stunk. I agree.
You can't sell us on,
Right.
and then we just bought.
Sure. Well, and that's why, the reason why, again, the only way I'm trying to sell you on that is the fact that we took the loan. Okay, the local banks were good enough to come together, just like we've done, like on the county jail and the co-op and all those things, where the community banks all come together. They gave us one heck of a deal. They gave us a balloon interest rate where we're able to really, pay very little interest on it, so that the money is invested wisely. We took the loan so that we could immediately put the money back into the general fund. So this should not affect any child in terms of, and the Section 16 land will actually, those funds will actually pay for the payments initially, so that it really won't have any effect on any child while we're, marketing it over the next few years. Right, but you're looking at a payment of what, $25,000 a month roughly?
Yeah.
I'm sorry?
$6,000.
$6,000 a month, I'm sorry. So $6,000 a month, how many months can we pay that on $300,000? Right, but I'm just saying, so it shouldn't affect them. I've created tension,
What, in your meetings, board meetings, when you all are together, what ideas, what are the plans? Because you already work almost in the now when you go to release 100 acres to develop, because you're going to be driving the price down. It's a lot. I mean, if there's 50 lots out there, a lot of these guys out here if you're your own person, if you're releasing 50 lots, kind of lighting it up. The part about the
I don't think that we're looking at, I think that every person that I've talked to and all the different investment firms that we've talked to, I mean, this will be probably a corporate sell. It's a big enough and it's the type of property that a corporation is going to want to buy. This is, I'm not interested in building lake homes because there's not a lot of money in that.
I was hit with it all.
Sure.
It seems like the corporate
Sure. Well, that's just an example. That's just an example. What I'm saying though is, but when you got to, if it is worth, if the $30 million figure that they, that we were quoted on is correct, I mean, you're not going to have a developer buy that and put lake houses on it. You know what I mean? It's going to be more of a corporate type sell, and that's a totally different market of kind of person that we're going to be looking at, and that will be professionally handled as well, so that we get a good deal on it. Yes, ma'am. Yeah. He would have bought it, yeah. Yes, ma'am.
If this is sold to a corporation, first you got to get the word out to corporations to be able to be aware that this property is available.
Yep. And that process is started.
What are your plans to market it and where are those funds coming from?
As far as we could use Section 16 funding for that. It depends. A lot of the marketing and stuff like that can be done with in-house. With we've got we're going to have the communications director where we can do marketing with it. Like a lot of the people that we've sought the advice from, that's what they do for a living, is they tap into people from around the United States that make purchases like this. Like I said, it's a completely different. And I don't pretend. My PhD is in education and leadership. It's not in real estate sales. So anytime that you get into a situation where you're out of your realm, you seek it's my responsibility to seek professional advice. And like I said, so that's exactly what we do. Just like by going to David Bryant, there is not one person in Alabama that's been more successful with real estate than David Bryant. I mean, he is absolutely the king guru. He makes it happen. And so, having him put us in place and having people come, it makes it very easy to find the right people that know the right people to market it to. And I don't think that we're looking at a lot of money in terms of marketing, but there hasn't been any marketing done yet. And as I said, that process has started, and we've got already, we've gotten some bites, but those bites have not been at the value that we're willing to let it go for. I don't know until we get the formal appraisal done. Until I've got one done that's current over the entire thing, and we can actually see what the value could be, then we can look at it and say. But it's hard to tell at this point. Yes, sir.
I've heard this, maybe, where the senior government can buy or have a business prior period. I mean, if you buy this land and sell it, is that considered a proprietary business?
No, it's just, it would be, the way that you sell a property matters. So the school board, so if you're saying, as far as, can the school board sell something?
Well, is there a statute?
I mean, you can sell a school, you can sell
There was a statute in Alabama that the city or government cannot benefit from, proprietary business, I guess.
Aaron, can you speak to that?
There's some code written in the law of Alabama where you can buy investment property, basically. In other words, we can buy the land, but as Dr. Ross mentioned earlier, we can't go in now and put another $300,000 into this house and get it up to par and turn around and sell it. More than likely, the house will be sold for scrap to somebody that
But
comes
the
in.
land is there, selling it, doesn't fall in.
No, sir. Because, and I think the main reason because of that, our issue was not the easement to get onto it that's diminishing the value. Diminishing the value was the easement that we had to provide to whoever owned the 10 acres at the end of it. As someone else mentioned before, we can't be landlocked. They had to give us access to it. But what diminished the value of that land is the access that we also had to provide to who owned the last 10 acres, which basically is that road all the way through 400 acres. So when we go to a large corporation and say, look, we've got this property, are you interested? And they get to do some digging, and they see that we have to provide an easement all the way through that land by law. That's what diminishes the value of it. We could have got by without purchasing a little lot at the top that we had to buy, but it killed both birds with that stone. And the people that own the lot at the end, or all property in, also own the lot at the end, they would sell that or stuff at the end without the lot.
Well, I mean, I looked at them, I went to the city, or county, map, where it goes to map. And the part that was purchased is there, is that out on the peninsula where the house is at? Or
Yes,
where
sir.
the dock is
The
at?
house and the peninsula are at the very end of the section.
There's a house, there's a strip, then there's a peninsula, right? Where the dock's at?
Yeah, it's the entire end of the boot. It kind of looks like a boot, and at the very end.
That existed, the 435 acres or whatever it may be.
Mhm. Sure. The input that they've had has been pretty well non-existent. I mean, they have not been interested in being a part of this program up to this point. Now, out of fairness to Dr. Griffith, I don't know that she's been brought up to speed on some of this as well. It was written that way, obviously, as part of the negotiations for the governor to give Cullman County the ground. Is that it had to show that it would benefit every child in Cullman County, not just students that lived outside of the city limits. So that's why it's that way. Well, I mean, like I said in my press release, I mean, it was done at the board meeting. It was a part of the board minutes. I mean, you were welcome to read those at any time. As far as, coming out, with a full-fledged, thing, I don't know that, that we would have necessarily. I mean, we were, it wasn't, well, probably not. We'd probably keep on trucking and talk about the strategic plan tonight, which is probably what we'd be doing. But as far as, like I said, the board, I mean, and that's why, it was done at the board meeting. Those minutes are shared with the press, with the media, with anybody that wants to log into it. Well, there are two reasons why you can go into executive session by state law, and that is one, for good name and character of a person, if you're discussing with somebody that maybe has done something wrong. And then the second one is, thank you very much. The second one is, contract and real estate purchases. And so we went into that basically to be advised and to advise the board on the finances and how we were going to do it, how we were going to secure the loan, and basically to make a decision on whether or not we were going to, to do that. However, you can't make a decision. Basically, I'm just allowed to, in an executive session, I'm only allowed to really give the facts and things like that, and then you come out, and then you publicly I have to make a recommendation saying that we're going to purchase this land, and then at that point, they voted to do so, as in the school board. And then, but like I said, by that time, I think there were 2 people at the board meeting. And then, the minutes, I think, were posted within 24, 36 hours after that. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
So where was the public voice?
I'm sorry?
Where was the community voice as far as what was being done until now, and it's done just now? Where was the public voice?
I can't speak to why it took 4 months to hit the community. I have no idea why it took 4 months to hit the community. I guess the biggest error that I made in it is maybe after we approved it and I got the board's vote on it and we decided to buy it, I could have sent out a news article talking about how lucky we were to get this property so that our investment wasn't wasted. I could have done that and spun it in such a way that we could show that it was a positive thing instead of finding it as a negative thing on the back end. I agree with you. Some of that, honestly, is just timing. And it was done and we were moving on to the next thing.
But the community's voice is in their board members because we elect those board members.
Right. As far as the community's voice, not everything is voted on by the community, but it is voted on by the board, which are elected. And like I said, when you look at the financing of it, I think it's a no-brainer. It really is clear. And I understand what the concern is, and I know that, I've heard several things. I could have built a cafeteria in Hansville, I could have built a gym in Good Hope, it could have been, But it's my desire that we quit doing things as feeder patterns and we start doing things as Cullman County schools. Billy Cullman was really the first one to really blaze that trail, with his big 3. Yes, sir.
I've got to go to the manager's meeting in a minute, but I have to say a few things, especially from a teacher's standpoint. First of all, our board members are elected officials. We trust them and we elected them to be directors of the good of the community. We're not going to support the board members' decisions, and we don't need to elect them into office. Second of all, it's embarrassing. We need to remember why, what Dr. Ross mentioned at first. We are 71% poverty. I'm 4 generations from the county. 4. So I didn't move out of the system. I came from the system. I'm product from the county schools. We're at 71% poverty. We function below the state level. Those of you can't argue with that. Now we can keep doing what we're doing right now. I like, to have the future hope of an investment from a lake property. Yes, we spent the money. Yes, we could have bought more floor rights. But how much floor rights can we buy for that much money? Versus investing money and making an investment that our schools can build from in the future. That's what it's about. We keep the definition of insanity is to keep the same thing over, to keep patching up buildings, patching up gyms, patching up schools for what? So we can still keep functioning below state level? Is that what we want to do? Or do we want to try something different that once again our elected officials decide to do? Try something different that might give us a little bit of hope to build better facilities and actually use that money for our kids. Remember what he said at first. We are here for the kids, not to sit around and argue about land being purchased. We're here for our students. I come to work every single day with no money, with no budget. And if that's going to continue for the rest of my career in Cullman County, that's kind of sad to me. Versus if we might have a hub in the future for our kids with their facilities, so that we think our kids can be proud of the facilities they go to school to again. And if they can be proud of their state performance levels. That's my opinion on it. And as a teacher standpoint, again, fourth generation Cullman County. I didn't move from Beverly Hills, I came from here. So I like this. I like the idea of giving our kids something that they can be proud of. And again, I encourage you, if you're not a teacher and you're just a parent, come see what we do. We teach our kids with the resources we have and everything that we can to make our kids' education the best it can possibly be. But it's so hard to compete with these bigger school systems who have embraced change. They've embraced change, they've embraced more investment. It's hard to compete with them when we don't have them. Gotta go to manage.
Thank you, sir. No, nothing like that. Absolutely, yeah. And education is about at the same level as the healthcare industry at this point. I mean, it's a mess. And the public education is failing our children every day in many ways. The fact that that we are the absolute #1 state out of all 50 states, Alabama ranks #1 in educational cuts. Speaks volumes. I mean, if we all love to say that our children are the future, but okay, if you're not going to invest in your future.
I think that I don't think anybody here is not concerned about children.
No, absolutely. Well, I applaud you, but how many people live in Good Hope? If I came tonight to talk about the future of Good Hope schools and about Cullman County schools and what we're going to do over the course of the next 5 years, and I'm asking for you to be a part of that, look around. I mean, how many of you are a little disappointed that your neighbors didn't come? I applaud you for being here. You and I have something very much in common, and that's a passion for children and education. But my first community meeting had 9 people in it. Okay? They hadn't heard any rumors at this point about closing their schools, so nobody came. Okay? That's a problem. That's a problem. It's not something that's going to slow me down, I can promise you that. We're going to do what's best for kids every day, and I'm going to change the future outcome for your children, because that's why I'm here. Why would I come here any other way? The average life expectancy of a county superintendent is 4 years. Okay? I'm 42 years old. I've got a few more of these jobs in me that I'm going to have to get. So it really behooves me, because in about 4 or 5 years, the chances are very likely, if not sooner, Mr. Spiegel, that I'm going to be looking for another job. If I can't show where I came in and did great things for kids, I won't work as a superintendent. And I'll tell you what, I've worked my tail off for 20 years to get to the point where I can do this, because it means that much to me. So why would I come in here and do anything less than my best for your children? And that's really where we're at. And I appreciate what you're saying, and I understand that there probably is some things that could have been done better. I fully admit that. And I promise you, as a human being, I will improve. As a superintendent, I will improve. I've been a superintendent for 9 months. And I'm not saying that as an excuse, because I've been a leader in education for a while. But I can tell you, we've got some big challenges here, and I'm going to make some mistakes, I can promise you. And I will apologize every single time that I do, and tell you when I do. And this whole thing could have maybe been handled better, but there are a lot of parts of this that just, we didn't have a lot of choice on, and 5 months of research before we pulled the trigger on whether or not to purchase this property. And I knew darn well that when we said, yeah, let's do it, that there was going to be a lashing coming to me for spending that money. I knew it was coming. I mean, it was one of those things, you just know it's going to happen. And that's okay. I'll take as many of those as I can, as long as we're moving forward. Yes, sir.
What is your school board strategic plan and move forward to get us out of the problems that we have?
Thank you for asking. That's a great question. We started developing, it's interesting, you'll find it's interesting to tell that we have not had a strategic plan in Cullman County. Okay, there's never been one. There's no evidence of ever having one, which is baffling to me. It's an incredibly useful tool that will help us all understand where we're going and what we're doing. So when I landed here in July, basically, one of the first things that the principals came to me and said was, hey, we've got great teachers, we've got great communities, we've got great kids, but we have absolutely no idea where we're going. We need direction. We need a guiding document that will push us, that we can go. And I've been, after 7 months of creating this document, I wanted to go even a step further, that it really should not matter. If we do our job correctly in developing this strategic plan, it shouldn't matter who the superintendent is. Because if we do a good enough job, the plan will be so good and there'll be enough buy-in that any superintendent that comes in after me will be crazy to change it. So we've got a 5-year strategic plan that is going to be presented to the board this Thursday. The first draft of that plan will be presented there. And that's the first part of the time frame. In April, we will finish all the action steps, which basically talk about all this one really more is about the goals, the things that we know. It comes from the survey results. It comes from all the data that we've been able to crunch on our finances, on our academics, on what the different companies that we've brought in to look at our non-instructional performance, our instructional performance, where are we at? And so I want to, like I said, I'm about ready to tell everybody where we're really at here soon. As in April, you're going to start hearing a lot about the Parker Report, which is a research company out of Stanford University, one of the most respected research companies, not companies, but institutions really, that is completely non-biased. They come in and they look at the instructional practice and the financial practices of school systems. They're going to produce a report for us in April on where we're at. And I know what that report's are going to look like because I've already studied the system. I've looked at the data. It's scary. It's scary. We've got to be better. We've got to provide better than what we have. And that's professional development, that's bringing in technology, and there's all kinds of things that go along with this. But this strategic plan will lay out basically all of our goals and exactly how we're going to achieve those goals and the benchmarks so that we can, every principals meeting that we have, every meeting that we have, we can check off those benchmarks and say, okay, we're making, this is what we're doing in this area, this is what we're doing in this area. And we will report on that every single board meeting. You will get an update on our strategic plan. And so it'll be in the board minutes. If you can't make it to the board meeting, I don't blame you, they're very boring. But at least look at the minutes, or maybe we'll be able to, with the communication director, I'll be able to put some of those things out. But it's going to behoove me as a superintendent to show the progress, to show where we're going and what we're doing. And so like I said, that public is going to become, that document is going to become public, Thursday night. You'll see the first draft of that.
Is there another school system in the state of Alabama that runs this course as far as purchasing property?
Schools purchase property all the time to build schools and things like that, yes.
So there is.
We've been in the Board of Education here has purchased property several times. As far as, we bought, I think the first board meeting I was in, we bought property for Holly Pond in case we ever expand there.
I look at this property.
Vinemont's asking for a property purchase because they want to build a track, things like that, so.
The 400 and something acres, we've had this land for years and years and years.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. It's been sitting there for all these years, but we've never used it for anything.
Well, we didn't have it. We've only had it for 2 years, or 3 years. Right.
It's our property, but the state
State management, they recharge that.
Yeah, we didn't really know we had it, is my understanding. This is before I got here, but it was my understanding that we didn't really know that we owned it.
I guess what I'm looking at is, to try or, proven method. Does this work, or are we venturing out on, Cullman County? Is this something they're going to approach, as a standalone? No, nobody advising them, nobody said, saying, hey, we've done this before, it didn't work, or hey, yeah, this works great.
Well, most of the, I mean, as far as Section 16 land goes, and selling Section 16 land, I mean, I mean, I think we're down to 2 or 3 school systems. There's 138 school systems in the state of Alabama. I think there's only 3 that actually have Section 16 land left, which means that all the other school systems have sold